Hey, what's going on, everyone? Good morning. I'm pulling up all the chats and all that good stuff here on Substack. Welcome, everyone, as you come on in. I'm Nick Perro. This is the Sick of This Show, and I am welcoming my new friend here and someone who writes a lot and puts out a lot of really good content here on Substack, Ethan Faulkner of Common Sense Rebel. And we're here to talk about
Nice.
class solidarity and the vertical war, and get to know each other a little bit because I think
Yeah.
we have a lot in common. Ethan and I were talking pre-show on some good things, and what we're going to discuss today. And I'm super excited. So, Ethan, I'm going to hand it over to you really to introduce yourself, say hi to everyone, as I try and find our chat and Substack side because I didn't pull it
Yep.
up beforehand. But good morning. It's nice to meet you.
Good
And
morning.
I'll hand it over to you.
How's everybody doing? I'm Ethan Faulkner. So if you're not part of the 1%, I think we have a lot in common. Definitely. Basically, the vertical war comes from the idea that it's top versus bottom, the few versus the many. And it's really defined through like math. Think about rent, food, energy, and wages. So like I don't look left and right, it's up and down. That's the vertical war. So the horizontal war still goes on. It's real. It's a culture war. Um, it's usually a fake conflict used to distract us. Um, and even though it's important things to an extent, the identity, symbolism, and the feelings are hard to convince people compared to hard math when it comes to systems of government and money. So that's what I try to focus on there.
That's awesome. So this is a lot of what I talk about anyway, is class solidarity and community building. Um, and the fact that we have a lot more in common below the hate, because the hate is indoctrination. And where we're confused is we're indoctrinated in different ways. Some are very violently aggressive, some are not as violently aggressive, but we're still indoctrinated to view things. And one of those big views is that there's difference between us on a class level when there's not. Um, and
Very
I think the
little.
historical quote is basically like it's easier to convince a a poor white person, that they're better than a poor black person than it is, and they're closer to the rich than it is to let them know that they're also poor. And I think we need to make it so that it's not, in my opinion, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is we need to take um, the sting and the oppressive idea out of being poor, because it's not your fucking fault. Like,
We're
more
yeah,
often than not, being poor and being destitute isn't your fucking fault. And it's the rich people, it's the one percenters who put us there and put us in these situations, and they're the ones you should be mad at, not each other, not us.
Yeah, we're talking about identity there. So identity comes in all different types of ways, and you can have more than one identity that you identify with. So being poor would be one of them. So instead of identifying as poor and saying and blaming other poor immigrants, which happens a lot, for that's the reason why, because they're taking up resources, which mathematically it, it doesn't make much sense. I have an article about that too, but I guess the point is, yeah, it's not about. Sorry, what was the point? Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good, man. I'm at the wrong time frame for you. I'm at the very end of your day. You should be asleep right now.
I
Um,
slept for 3 hours.
all right, well, that's pretty good. That's decent, I guess. Is like, do you? And it's almost a rhetorical question for you, because I think I'm pretty sure I know the answer. Is, do you think that, or how would you help frame it in a way so that it's not stinging and we can take out um the negative feeling towards
Oh,
being poor,
that's
where
right.
it's like put a burden on you for doing it, and all you have to do is keep
I
pulling
named,
yourself up by the bootstraps.
I named the identities that we use that are wrong, and that not wrong, but they're damaging, right? So it's really hard to not think in identities because it helps your brain react to things and uses less brain power when you have like a an archetype that you can reference in your head of what you think is how you're supposed to be. So how I think about it is we're producers. We're the people who actually make stuff work around here. We're the gears. So that's like the producer class. And I call it the gears because it's a machine. Society's a machine. We're the ones who make it work. The 1%, I call them the rust. They rust us down. They don't offer anything. They make us work harder for the same results. They're a parasite class. So if we start talking about it like that, all of a sudden the our neighbors aren't poor. They're producers like us, and our CEOs aren't just our kings. They're the parasites.
I like that. They're not our kings. They're parasites. They're leeching off of us. So, what do you think of people like Elon Musk and his crowd who have come into the country and have used the legal systems of immigration and then took advantage of everything and just bought up and gobbled up and now are saying that we're the problem? What do you think of his mentality around approaching class, um, and where do you want to shift your
It's gaslighting.
conversations? Yeah, it is
It's
gaslighting.
yeah. Well, if you were rich and you wanted to just be more rich, what would you do? Um, you'd get the people who are responsible for voting in politicians angry at the wrong people. It just makes sense. He bought X. It wasn't even really on purpose, and he's doing the most he can with it. It happened around the same time when he started getting into politics. Is when he bought up that platform. I don't think
I
he's
think it was a little more
using what he
purposeful than we
has.
think.
Okay.
Um, I think he bought into X on purpose with outside money. And I have no like hard proof of any of this, but with all of the connections that he has with Russia and their oligarchic system and the wealth that comes through there through money laundering, and this will be a good segue to into the Epstein money laundering portion and that conversation. But I think Elon Musk was influenced to buy X by Russia's mob state. He has close contacts with them, with Putin. And I think it was a tool that can be and was used to create a class war and to continue furthering identity politics,
Oh yeah.
um, without adding any substance.
Yo, Twitter X is messed up. I'm not big on social media till recently. I started Substack 5 months ago. I started using X like 2 or 3 months ago and really started looking at it the past few weeks. And also all the news that came out when they did that location feature glitch.
Oh
That
yeah.
it pretty much pointed all the fingers at the instigators on Twitter. They have huge followings, and even after the information came out, they gaslit their audiences to doubt it. All these crazy things. It's just from an outsider perspective looking in, if it really looks chaotic. And um, is it intentional? Like you said, there's definitely a chance because we can see the advantages that it has. It seems a little bit too chaotic, but
Yeah. I mean, Elon Musk is a chaos agent, so I guess it makes sense for chaos and whatever gets him
yeah,
the most money. So,
there's
uh,
always a chance for these things. Everything I talk about on Substack, I learn it in real time. Like I, I haven't been studying these things for years before I did Substack, so I
yeah,
don't really know anything about Elon Musk's relationships with other countries. I do know his basic background and history, but
Oh, okay. Yeah. I talk a lot about like the Palantir, as I call them, the pedo pals, all the, um, oh, what did they, the PayPal mafia or the pedo pal mafia, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel,
Yep.
Mark Andreessens of the world. Those folks, Shane Urich and I talk about them a lot.
I
So
know
I have
them
a lot.
individually. I just guess
Yeah.
I never looked into the history of.
Oh yeah, they have a lot of connections with each other, and they there's a lot of back dealing that goes on between them and between their companies, especially around like voting systems, which you might find really
Oh
interesting.
yeah.
You should look into this Will Hold's work. She does amazing stuff into the elections and the digital interference that was going on with the low Earth orbit satellites and the direct to cell and overriding the smart hubs that are the power stations for the voting systems that can be easily hacked, and you can have super user access basically without really trying into the voting machines. So there's some really interesting stuff because we're all being lied to. Like it's
Yeah.
the political system in the US right now is gaslighting and lying. Like the
Did you know
Republicans don't do anything.
The American Revolution started because of a corporate bailout?
Mhm.
Like there's stuff like that. A lot of things we don't realize. Money has been running this country. The reason why we have this country is because two classes of people. The producing class got angry at the king for tariffing their products so that the East India Company could have a monopoly.
And guess what? I think we're all pretty sick and tired of rich people, the robber barons in the US, stealing all our fucking money and giving themselves bailouts and calling it not socialism for rich people. But we all have to pull ourselves up for the bootstraps, buy the
And
bootstraps
oh my
over
god.
and over. Um, and so I
Mm-hmm.
want to talk a little bit about some of the big stuff that's about to happen.
Fill me
Because
in.
tomorrow, a
Yeah.
little bit of news. Tomorrow is we're supposed to get the drop of the Epstein files, and they're supposed to
Oh
start
yeah, yeah.
releasing everything. I want to get your thoughts on that. And because a lot of these folks, these billionaires, are in the Epstein files, and they all like the rich class, the 1% class, not just in the US, but around the world, are all tied to this because it's not just child sex trafficking and child abuse and pedophilia. It's also money laundering.
Yeah,
And the
for
bailouts are
sure.
tied to this.
That's why they let Epstein run. They didn't let him run because they love pedophilia necessarily. They love money, and they don't care if pedophilia is how they get it. That, that,
Yeah.
that that's why. Or I think about tomorrow. I think I'll believe it when I see it. When's the last time we actually got new names?
Actually, not too long ago.
Okay,
The
fill
other
me
week,
in.
I don't remember all the names. There were a couple names released, and along with some of the information, because of all the emails that have been
Yep.
dropped, there have been a bunch more names that have
Oh yeah,
started to come
Bannon
out.
showed up more.
Oh my
Remember
god,
that?
the Bannon emails. If you
Yeah.
haven't looked at Ellie Leonard's work,
Oh, I like her.
she has so fucking much stuff in there about Bannon. There's 3 freaking email sets of this dude
Yeah,
just
she
going
does
back
real
and forth.
investigations into the files. I like that.
Yeah.
I find
And
patterns between public records, but she's like she tries to file to get like I don't know. She talks to like the police records and stuff like that. She's crazy.
yeah. Yeah, she's really into it, and I'm glad. Like it's really cool because I don't know as much as she does, but I get to talk to her about it. And
Yeah,
like
and I'm trying to think of all these different topics at the same time to try to figure out a platform that can try to get both sides left and right to understand what's going on. Is it's really easy to switch into culture elements. So Epstein's a really easy topic to do that with because the
yeah,
instincts is
so
right.
you have a really unique subscriber base or a really cool subscriber base that spans the political ideologies because you don't focus on that aspect of it. I'm a part of it, I'm assuming, is because you don't sit there and you don't bash just Republicans. You talk about ideas and you talk about what could be different or what should be different and what is happening right now. Can you talk a little bit about like what you do to help reach across the class solidarity in the horizontal pattern so
Yeah.
that we can make and beat back against the vertical?
It really was a defense mechanism. This is honestly, it's my origin story, bro. The reason why I started writing is because I was sick of I work in a gas station, right? And I live in Massachusetts, which is really liberal, but I live in a conservative town. So there's a really good mix of people. And over the last 10 years, bro, the amount of gaslighting these politicians are doing, creating polarization to the point where like the person who just walked out the door pay for the stuff, the next person in line's talking shit about them because he thinks they're a Democrat or he thinks they're a Republican. It's gotten ridiculous. And it's it's engineered. It's like I'm sitting here barely getting paid while all the prices are going up. They're complaining about the prices of everything they're buying, but they buy it anyway while they're blaming the other people who are paying the same prices. And I just think it's ridiculous. So really this comes from empathy, I think. It comes from really seeing people as people, and the politics is just a weapon used to divide us. So everything I write is from that angle. And even though I have a party that I vote for, most of the time that is not what I even want to talk about. I want to talk about treating people like we're in this together.
Yeah, and I like that a lot because that's what I'm like. I'm about community building and trying to just talk about real issues. So what have you found really what have you found that works for you to talk about these types of issues? And what have you found that doesn't always work for you, like where you've had, say, more pushback from all sides of your audience?
Before I say what works and doesn't work, I need to say that there's always going to be people who use the article to validate their worldview, and they'll miss the apoliticalness of it, and you can see that in my comments. So I haven't figured out how to really drill that into people. Well, they'll read an article about how I don't know how the Patriot Act enabled the shadow banking, and then they'll say, "Oh, that's how Trump can do all this, that," and it's like, sure, but is that really what you wanted to comment? Like your main takeaway? Because it has so many more implications, but people want to bring it back to their identity, which is that person just hates Trump.
Mhm.
So that's something that is an issue, and I don't have a way to deal with that. But what does work for the people who are ready to listen is discussing that empathy part where we're here to learn. So I guess let me start over again a little bit. The articles do a good job because they're forensic. They do not talk about politics and bias at all. It talks about facts and numbers and systems in government. So I really don't have to convince either party to read it and enjoy it. It really, the problems happen in the comments when they see other people validating their worldview, or in my chat when people are sharing the Trump's hates or the immigrant hates articles. It's more so dealing with that, which shouldn't even be my responsibility. So what works is keeping things forensic, and what I mean by that is treating it like an apolitical investigation where it's a crime scene.
Yeah. Okay. Can you go more into that? Like, what do you mean? Like, how the crime scene part? How do you get, how do you focus yourself into that being like your mentality?
Have you ever played the game Phoenix Wright? It's a video game. No,
No.
I doubt the audience has either. It's you get to be a detective, right?
Yeah.
And when you're a detective, what you do is you go around, you're looking for evidence, and there's evidence laying around all over the place for things in our systems of government. For example, another example, I already said the Patriot Act. We say Citizens United. Ever since Citizens United got passed, we see an exponential increase in campaign spending. And you can trace the lines of where that money's gone, came back to, who enabled the lobbying beforehand. We could discuss what kind of factors like no term limits on Supreme Court, all these. So you put together a case like you're about to present it to a judge. You know what I mean? Where you have all this evidence, you're not talking about you should like this guy, you should not like this guy. You're indicting the system.
I like that. So let's talk about some of the systems that you indict the most, other than the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
Because I do well, let's go into the Patriot Act a little bit before we go anywhere.
Okay.
I think that's a good one. Because the Patriot Act enabled racism in a way that and enabled self or internal monitoring for US residents and or citizens with very little oversight. What do you like? What does it feel like to you when what do you talk about the most for the Patriot Act? And what is your, like, where do you try and focus into for, bye, buddy. Where do you try and focus into in your investigations, or do you just let it sort of lead you where it may go?
I definitely have a starting point usually, but it ends up taking me wherever. Um, so basically, with the Patriot Act, the things that I found sketchy was the fact that that we never discussed what happened to the money after it disappeared. So I got into that conspiracy, but I don't like getting stuck into conspiracy. So I looked at the facts, and the facts was the money's gone. I don't want to look at the stuff I can't prove. We move on to the Patriot Act getting passed. And what that does is it makes it so banks are now essential infrastructure for the United States. I think they were before that, but now the Patriot Act makes it so like the deferral agreements and the felony process is a lot more simple for banks. So they can commit crimes and just pay money. And the reason why they justify that is because they need the infrastructure for the banks. And that happened after the Patriot Act, but there's also the surveillance state that started happening too. They started outsourcing a lot of their enforcement, and it's only getting higher percent of private enforcement versus public. And the reason why that's such a big deal is because public enforcement is supposed to be available information to people. And when they started to do it through private, we can't get access to the information of their operations anymore. So it's obfuscating their enforcement. So we can no longer track their operations.
And on top of that,
Those are just two things. Those are just two things. Yeah, yeah.
so have you linked that into a discussion around like the overturning of the Dobbs decision and Roe v. Wade, and the privacy portion of that compared to like the abortion aspects?
Ooh,
Because that was really what Dobbs was about,
that'd be a
was
good
privacy
idea.
and data privacy. So do you talk about that at all in your
No, I
work on how
haven't.
that you should? I think
For
you should. I would,
no reason. That's a good idea. Yeah.
because I think there's so much misinformation about Roe v. Wade and the Dobbs decision that we need to, if people understood that it was about data privacy and personal privacy, I think they'd be a lot more upset that it was overturned. Because that was one of the systems that enabled these surveillance groups to, or say your police department, to contract with Flock Safety and not have a data retention policy in place ahead of time, because it's private companies collecting data and they don't have to worry about too many data privacy laws in the US because we don't really have them.
Yeah.
I talk a lot about the surveillance state, and if you haven't looked into Flock
Good.
Safety as one of those private contractors, you should. There's a lot of pushback going around nationwide on Flock Safety. Melissa Corrigan does a lot of really good
I did an
reporting on it.
old article series on it, but it was before I had that many subscribers. I should try to rewrite it.
Oh, you should. I
Sure.
would encourage you to try and rewrite it, especially look into some of the work Melissa Corrigan has done. I'll send some of the links and some of the shows that Shane Urich and I have done around it because we talk a lot on flock safety. And Mount Lake Terrace, Washington, which is a suburb of Seattle, and Flagstaff, Arizona, yesterday just voted in their city councils to remove all flock and flock safety contracts, and because people are realizing that it's surveillance. It's not about catching bad people. It's they want to collect all the data they can on you as a person and turn you into a social credit score, and
Ugh.
that's fucking awful. Do you talk at so what are your thoughts on the flock stuff? Because I want to link you up with Melissa in some ways. I think she's in the chat still. So I want to link you up with Melissa around this because she has a lot of really good reporting on flock.
Yeah, for a long time I thought that getting spied on was whatever because I don't have anything to hide and yada yada. But the more I learn about things, it's not even about hiding things. The more they learn about you, the more they can manipulate your environment and convince you things and sell you things and really just curate. The word's curate because they realize your habits and your spending habits and whatnot. So the more information these people have on you and they can tag to you, you're just signing up for a dystopia with less free thinking, and you don't even realize it's happening.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they rely on or what it seemed. I don't know if you know much about flock safety itself. I know you said you did a reporting on them, but one of the things that they have is their dashboard collects and aggregates information from your social media accounts. They
Makes
are
sense.
it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense for a company that advertises itself as license plate camera readers.
Yeah, but isn't that Thiel's company or?
He was he was part of one of the original venture capital groups that invested in Flock, yes,
Oh, okay.
and he would like to buy it again because
See, there you
not
go.
because of the cameras specifically, but because of the dashboard and the
Exactly.
social media mining aspect of that.
He doesn't care about ethics. He's on the record talking about that. So like that's why I'm not surprised. If whatever his money's in, it's not ethical. Just
No.
like period.
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus,
like look
yeah.
up if you don't know Peter Thiel, look him up. Why the fuck is this guy rich? He's only rich because the parasite ideology exists. People realize that he can make them money, so they give him money. They don't care about what he stands for because he is the shittiest person. Everybody can believe that. Like that is not even a left-right thing.
Yeah.
Like, that person he doesn't want working class people to exist anymore. He thinks AI should replace them so that he doesn't have to worry about us.
Yes. They're the TESCREAL. Do you know anything about TESCREAL?
Yeah, that was the finale of my Shadow Arc series, which is my Patriot Act series. That was the last article where I talk about what's going to happen if we don't fucking change shit.
Okay.
They're going to leave us all to die.
Tell me about it, because we talk about that stuff too.
Yeah, I'll pull it up. The headline was going to leave us all to die, and we helped them pack. And my goal for that was to try to discuss climate change in a way that was so existential that the people who have been gaslit to think that climate change is a billionaire's trick to green energy or whatever, that's only half the truth. because there is some truth there, right? That was the challenge discussing TESCREAL, because the real threat of TESCREAL is the environmental damage that they're accepting as part of their mission. So basically, they're super accelerating fossil fuels right now. They're using national security as a shield to do it. And yeah, so what happens when the environment changes? So I tried to talk to the audience when I wrote about it. I said, scientists are like us, they're producers. The people who fund them are parasites. And there are producers like scientists who risk their whole lives trying to get information out there that their funders didn't want them to let out. So there's a real problem trusting science, but it's not trusting scientists. So like, if you really dig into which scientists are the ones talking about climate change, the ones that aren't hitting on the fear monger element of it, you realize that the emission part, it's existential to the point of things are going to be more expensive because the air is going to be harder to breathe. So we might have to start funding medicine or devices to breathe in the next 100 years to help us breathe. So that's money there. Obviously the water levels are going to rise. So there's money to fix infrastructure, a lot of money. And so we are going to be not the priority anymore when that stuff starts happening. Is the idea of TESCREAL, because AI is going to make things work anyway, even if we're suffering. So I try to make it existential by not just to fearmonger for no reason, but because I'm scared. And I need to explain to people that, especially the right wing, because they have a good reason to doubt green science. There were billionaires who made programs that like Exxon, they usually were the fossil fuel ones who said, oh, we're doing green this, green that, and it really wasn't, and it was just a ploy to make more money. And there's a lot of billionaires who use green energy to just lie and make money. So you have to make a line and tell them that they're right to think that, but there's also a real danger of letting things keep going on.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's the idea. To me, it's the idea of talking about boiling down some of what you just said is the idea of talking to people about ideas and not personality traits. And you're not attacking somebody or saying somebody is bad because or you should feel bad because you have this idea. It seems more like you're coming at it from, this idea is bad and you may want to reconsider it because you've been lied
to the advantage of somebody else, not you. Like that lie is hurting you.
Yeah. And I think that's really, really good. And what we need is, because we're not against each other. Like, I don't want to attack my neighbors. I don't want my neighbors attacking me. I don't want other people's neighbors attacking each other for no fucking reason. We're all in this together. Like, we're all suffering right now together, except for like a couple thousand people in this country who have way more money than fucking every other nation in the world. Like, what the fuck is going on? Why are we fighting each other?
I heard in the next 10 years, it's like 80% of the world's wealth will be in like the top 1,000 people.
Yeah. Like, that's stupid. That's stupid. We're at a time when you were just mentioning, and we can look around us too, where shit is going wild. The environment is going nuts, and it's just going to get worse and worse and worse because we don't ever talk about. We talk about like environmental damage that we do for green sector or for oil sector. We never talk about the environmental damage that is done by war and what is coming and the damage that is about to happen because we're about to drop a bunch of fucking bombs and
Nick,
pollute the environment even more with our warships. So
I've been learning
I'm a
about.
veteran and I want
Well,
your
go ahead.
opinion on this and how you would talk about this and how you might talk about this to your subscribers is how are you going to talk about the environmental cost of war? Because it's super important and it's going to kill the rest of us. I know
My
I'm
take
putting you
on
on the spot.
my take on war is it's already awful because people die, but I know why it happens sometimes. And all I think about when you brought that up is that just look at our history. We're due. It seems like it happens like clockwork. Whenever the economy's hurting, it's like their last call. Something happens on purpose so that they can profit off of it. What was your exact question? Because that's what I just wanted to say when you said it.
No, yeah, that's fine. I'm trying to remember my exact question. So as someone who is not from the military, because I have a veteran's view on all of this and I'm fucking pissed off.
Thanks for
But
your
as someone
service. Hell yeah.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
I mean it.
I thank everybody for their service who is still fighting this fight, and those who didn't serve in uniform yet are still serving their country and doing their civic duty. That's just as important, and we need to laud that. And what Ethan you're doing is your civic duty. And I talk a lot about civics here, either on
Thanks.
this show and on my other platform, Banner and Backbone. Is if you don't realize it yet, the engagement that folks are giving, that you guys are giving to Ethan, is civic duty, civic engagement, because you're learning about what's actually happening in the country. You're paying attention. You're being engaged again. And that's what democracy is people's engagement over a large period and a large group going, yep, I want this or I don't want this. And when we come together as a class, we have a lot of fucking people. And so my opinion on war and the environment is we do a shitload of fucking damage and we never talk about it.
Oh
And it's
yeah,
been
environment.
excluded from the Green New Deal. It's been excluded from any energy regulations ever, basically, is we just don't care. How do you feel as someone who isn't in the military or hasn't been in the military around what is going on and like what you see as the cost to possibly the environment or just ourselves as individuals?
I think you pointed out a real problem because I haven't really even thought about it, which I think is kind of your point. No one really thinks about the cost of war on the environment. I always think about the human toll, and like the from the actual fighting, not the environment. It's definitely a real concern. I haven't done research into it. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that just shows how big of a deal. You're right to bring it up because no one talks about it, and I wish I knew more. Like obviously the nukes are bad, but what and like bombs in general probably mess up the environment, right? All sorts of chemical reactions. What else is there you could teach us?
Yeah, I mean, like you look at the just we'll talk about the like first order impacts, which are of a war, which is bombs and missiles and systems like that. They blow shit up. They kill everything where it hits. They leave a blast radius. They destroy the entire ecosystem of wherever they're dropped. And we drop thousands of them.
Hmm,
That's the frontline effect. That's like
I
the
hear you.
first order effect, plus mortars, things like that. All of those individual things that blow up, um, grenades, anything. That type of weaponry and those types of tools, they do damage to the environment on a first order effect. The second order effect, we never talk about the fuel cost. Like, let's look at the
Oh
Navy.
yeah,
Navy
holy cow.
ships use a lot of fucking fuel. Aircraft carriers use a lot of fucking like jet fuel because they have a bunch of naval jets sitting there that they fly around, and those jets are not green in
And
any
now
way.
does
They
the
just
military
burn.
do a emissions report every year? Do we know?
I think they do, but they are excluded from any of pretty much excluded from our green
So we know how much they're doing, and
agenda.
it's probably more than that anyway, and it's
Yeah.
way up there. Okay.
Yes, and it's really high, and we just don't seem to care. Like the Paris Climate Accords explicitly excluded military damage for when they were talking about environmental costs and how to go green. Well, if we wanted to stop fucking polluting the planet, we could just stop dropping bombs. And that's just talking about like ground level effects on, we don't even talk about what's going on in the ocean when you drop bombs and when you destroy the ecosystem there and you blow up coral reefs and we ruin entire underwater environmental structures that feed the rest of us and also, clean the air and produce massive amounts of, or could be used instead to produce massive amounts of energy, and instead we're bombing them and changing the ecosystems.
Yeah.
So
a big part of why people probably don't tune into these things is because it's too academic, and it relies a lot on faith in science instead of things that you can actually reason in your head without trusting reading. And that's a lot hard to do now for a lot of people.
If we're actually blowing up drug boats in the water, cocaine dissolves if it's filled with cocaine or fentanyl. Cocaine dissolves in water, and it breaks down. I don't know what the environmental damage specifically of cocaine is when it breaks down into water and what it turns
The ocean's
into.
huge, but I bet that one area is fun.
If we are blowing up drug boats and there's a lot of drugs now in the water, that's doing a shitload of damage to the environment too. Like, everybody probably has heard about meth gators out of Florida. Like,
whoa, I haven't. That sounds crazy.
You haven't? You've never seen the Florida Man stories about meth gators? Like, this shit is real.
Wasn't there a movie about it? Oh, like
no, that was Cocaine Bear. That was the Cocaine Bear.
Oh, the bear.
That's actually based on a real story too. And that was drug runners from Latin America, but that was real drug runners. But like, these things happen. Like, we're gonna get like cocaine sharks and tornadoes freaking flying into Florida, and people are gonna go crazy. Like, we're gonna get the weird shit. But anyway, like, going back to the main point of it is, we don't ever talk about the damage to the environment that we're doing in any of that. And I'm glad that you did bring it up originally, about the environmental costs in your piece, and you talked about it, because I think it's really important that we talk about it in a way that doesn't blame us, but makes it hit home. And so, how do you talk about that? Like, what is your personal strategy to help make your work accessible to others, so that you don't put the blame on the people who are not to blame? Like, you're not shouldering the blame onto the working class. How do you ensure that you keep that focus for yourself? Because sometimes it can be really easy to shift that blame, even accidentally.
I think it's going to be harder the closer we get to election season, because people are going to start wanting advice about who to vote for. And that, because part of how I make it work is because I don't act like a political advocate for anybody. So
what's your plan for that? Because it's gonna happen. You're gonna get asked. Do you have a plan yet on how to approach these coming elections? Because there's going to be a lot of possible conflict, and folks like you are in a place to help shift that narrative and break that conflict down. Because the Democratic Party is not going to do it, and they're not going to do it very well if they even try it. It's on folks like you and me to break down those barriers. How do you plan on doing stuff like that to help make sure that we vote in people who are pro-democracy and pro-constitutional republic and not pro-fascist?
I have a few ideas. I think I could put together a systems framework where, like, I could use numbers and evidence from the person's history to fill in a template, like an algorithm, kind of to show who could help us and who can't. Systems can help turn things that might have a bias into facts if you just input values that argue. For instance, I have somebody who I've known on Substack for a while. His name's Clinton Alden. He has a systems framework for corporations and how they treat employees. And
Okay.
you plug numbers in from their official data banks and whatnot, and you come up with values to see whether or not they are successful. So I'd have to go through a whole scientific method, I think, to keep it unbiased, which is crazy to talk about. And then I'd talk about a whole bunch of candidates who are high up, some who are on the that score high, and then I'd talk about the popular ones where they score. So that way I'm not really telling you who to vote for, but I'm showing you a scoreboard.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that idea of putting facts out there, but how do you plan, and this I guess is more of a, I'm going to push you just a little on this to see if you have any deeper thoughts, is how do you plan to break down that wall where to separate the identity out of the politics so that you can continue to reach your crowd?
Shatter the prison. You got to know that you're stuck before you can change. So the number one thing you can do is point out everything they've been lied to about for their side, and I do it for left and right. My article about immigration is about how mass amnesty wouldn't even necessarily be a good thing too. And immigration fucks up the fact that they let so many people in here. It helps the corporations. I don't want to kick them all out either. Don't get me wrong. It's just that the immigration only helps corporations the way that it's been happening, both ways. Even them kicking people out is only helping corporate. It's like I win no matter what. The coin, they win. So, yeah.
Okay. So I like that framing. And
legal immigration is how you get people in here without affecting wages. But unfortunately, we're past that.
Yeah, and there's a lot wrong. Like you said, there's a lot wrong with our immigration system. It's broken. It's pretty. It's based on a system of white supremacy. To be totally honest, at least in my view, because
Western culture supremacy. If you
more specifically. Yeah, Western culture supremacy or I guess European culture supremacy, even though it's not European any longer. It's now American cultural supremacy. And you can see that in how politicians all around talk about people who come in and talk about how people get into the country and who they want in or don't want in, and what language that gets used. And it's polarizing language because we have a broken system in its wake. So have you, since you are into systems design and systems understanding, have you looked into Conway's Law at all?
No. What's that?
So Conway's Law is something that I learned while I was in the tech world. And it's actually a really good principle. It's very simple. It's that systems are built and designed and run and function in the way that their communication structure is organized. And
that's awesome.
It's supposed to apply. It was put in place to apply for companies specifically, like businesses, but it actually applies.
I'm a communications major, so I understand this right away. I'm looking at a diagram.
Yeah, I'll drop a link in the show notes as well. I've talked about it before. It's one of those founding laws that I really like and find just very meaningful. And I've found that they do work. we design our systems. It's like our government system right now is designed in a way that it is anti-transparency and
100%.
anti-communication to the public. So
Mhm.
we have very little trust and very little engagement in our political system. Whereas if we were to apply in the opposite way of if we had massive transparency in the system and people were actively encouraged to engage, the communication structure of us engaging would shift the system itself because our voices have a lot of power. What do you think about that? I want
I
to
think
tee you
you're
up with that.
spot on, and we need people who understand political systems, like to get on how to implement this kind of organization for us as the working class, so we can, you know what I mean, and talk to me because I have ideas for how to talk to get both sides of the aisle into it. But when it comes to actual organization in politics, it gets really complicated, and it would be a whole nother. I wouldn't be able to make any content focused only on that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have to fight where we can and we have to focus in on where we are the most useful and most
Well, I'm,
impactful.
I'm sure there's some people who work with systems in government like that, and they'll hear about Conway's Law, and something will click, and they'll be like, "Oh, maybe we could implement some sort of structure here or an organization here to help this." So
Yeah, and
it's good
that's
to keep talking about that.
yeah, and it's good to get these things and ideas out there that people don't hear as often. Um, because you hadn't heard of Conway's Law, yet you talk about systems and communications a lot. And
Yeah, political systems are different than government
yeah,
systems. In my political systems is like the way elections work, and the parties choose their candidates, and that the way that, I don't really look too much into that yet. But the government systems is the way that they work once they're in the office, and I know that stuff.
yeah. So we're getting close to the top of the hour, and I want to give you a chance here to promote, I guess, the idea of what is the system that you would like to see replace or built on top of what we currently have to make it better, to achieve a more perfect union in the US. What do you conceive would be a good system that we could replace some of what we have with?
It's a good question. I've done some research into I'm a pro capitalism, but pre like industrial age, before we had like income taxes that were starting to be implemented. So basically I learned that the capitalism we have today is a lot different than the capitalism that we had when it was invented, and then that was a lot different than the capitalism that was going on during the American Revolution. It's been evolving for hundreds of years, and I think whenever the ideas that I'm about to say, I bring them up, people want to call it socialism, but it's not socialism. That's part of how they tricked us. Is I'm discussing fair capitalist practices that require changes to the way that we know capitalism, but that's only because all we know is the way it's been for the last, wow, God knows how many years. But that doesn't mean it's not capitalism. If you have some social services for people, and you make sure that companies aren't owned by people who don't have any stake in the company, so like they don't care if it succeeds or not. So that's when you talk about ideas like workers co-ops, where the workers own most of the business. There's a lot of things that people want. The progressive Democrats call it social democracy, but it's really still capitalism. Those words just scare people. It's fair capitalism.
Yeah, Shane Yerk and I actually talked about this because there's like four different types of socialism out there, and how they're mixed with capitalism. And we have the we had for a while the closest to democratic socialism for businesses and corporations and the government,
Oh,
but
we're in corporate
not for individuals.
communism, bro. We have the same thing
No,
as socialism.
I
We're
would
communism.
argue that we're a market socialism now. Is that the government really owns most of the billionaires. It's
Yeah,
just
so
they own them
hypocrites.
through private interest,
So,
and
like,
then
seriously, if you think that what I'm talking about is socialism, just look at what they're how they're treating corporations. How the fuck is that not? Like,
Mhm. Yeah, we have socialism in this country. It's just not for us. It's just
yeah.
not for the normal people who
And I
actually
don't
need
like
this
using that
social
word just
democracy.
because it's been
Oh
red
yeah,
baiting. Red
yeah,
baiting. It's real and it's hard to reprogram people. That's all.
yeah.
That's the only reason why. But
So how do you talk about it instead? What's your favorite way to refer to this
it's
type
it's it's
of
fucking fair capitalism.
oh, I like that. Yeah, I just want I agree because it's hard. Words have so much power, and there are certain words that hold a lot of negative power, like socialism. It's become a demon word in this country, even though we know we all want what, say, social democracy could provide or a democratic socialist system could provide. It's
Well,
wealth
that's the thing. Some people don't
equality.
know they want that, but because the word, but if
Yeah.
you use a different word, they realize they do.
I like talking about a wealth minimum and a wealth cap. Um, and I think people actually get behind that in part of fair capitalism, where you have a minimum standard of living where everybody gets a universal basic income. And I know that's a scary thing for some people.
With AI, I think it should be reasonable, but
Yeah, like we could produce so much wealth with AI
the
just in
concern
itself.
though is that the quality of citizens, like they'll become more complacent and will be less productive people and will just cause burden for society. That is an opinion too. If we just get
Yeah, definitely. And I see that opinion. And I also say that there's enough of us out there who don't care about the monetary extra, that we just want to learn. Like, we're so interested in learning and doing and trying to not say be productive, because I hate the idea of productivity as like a value point for humans. Um, I think that demeans us in
right
a lot of ways. But I think
efficiency and all that.
more better humaning is what I want. Is like,
Better quality.
yeah, better quality humaning. And I think like raising the wealth minimum and actually providing a wealth minimum with a reasonable wealth cap. And I'm saying reasonable, like arbitrary number of $100 million. Like, I don't know if anybody needs more than that. I doubt anybody needs $100 million, but like, go over that and everything gets put back into the social systems that help all of us. And because education, say, would be free or affordable, because you're not worried about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you have your basic needs met, is you go get a good education and you can become an engineer, but we don't need to worry about productivity because AI and machinery do all the hard labor. Why the fuck do we need to do that? We've got brains. We want to do the
I
cool stuff. So let us think and engage. And I think a universal basic income could get us there. But I think that's a whole nother conversation too.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say I
I'd
agree
love
with
your
the
thoughts on
universal
that.
income. I agree with the universal income. The wealth cap, maybe. I'd have to look into the implications of that. I definitely think there needs to be taxes on owned property. That way we can have a very clear, fair tax for people who are rich. But
Yes.
that's my
Yes.
end.
There has to be, it's all about not redistribution of wealth. It is about giving the wealth back to the people who actually deserve it, and getting rid of these fucking billionaires who just steal and take our money. That's my thought anyway. And so I want to give you here a second close out, because we're right at the top of the hour and I want you to be able to sell yourself, tell people where they can find and support you, because that's what I like doing too, is making sure everybody gets as much support as they can. We've got a really nice crowd here today, 316 people right now in Substack.
Whoa.
So thank you everybody for being here with us. And Ethan, this has been really fun to get to know you. And I
Yeah.
look forward to having some more conversations with you. And I think everybody needs to go follow the Common Sense Rebel of Ethan Faulkner. And so sell yourself, brother.
It's not left, it's not right, it's up and down. It's It's a vertical war. You can find me on constructivemiracle.com. I got a domain for the Substack. Constructivemiracle.com.
And I put this will link you, this QR code on the screen. If you scan it, will link you to that page, the constructivemiracle.com, which I think is your Substack homepage.
It is.
And it's awesome. So go there, go subscribe to Ethan. And then when you're done subscribing to Ethan, come subscribe to me if you already haven't. And join us.
Hell yeah. He's proven to be a great guy.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. And we've got a 60% off sale forever going on for Sick of This Shit publications, as well as I just dropped the founding member price from $200 a year to $100. So if anybody out there wants to become a founding member, it does really help me build up this publication and the production value. We have some new shows coming to Sick of This Shit publications. We're expanding. There's a new section.
Look at this quality. Help them out. It's good. Keep it going.
Thanks, brother. There's new sections coming to the publication, more stuff coming out. Come hang out with us. And then also, again, make sure to subscribe to Ethan and the Common Sense Rebel, because his work is awesome. And he is bridging that gap that needs to be bridged, because we're not fighting each other. We're fighting them. And that them is the 1%. So, as I always say at the end of our shows, friends, 1, thank you everyone for being here. And 2, we're done being sick of this shit. Let's start doing this shit. Thanks, Ethan. I appreciate you coming on with me. Thanks everyone in the chat too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.